It's so disrespectful. So
I
disrespectful.
mean, did you expect anything else?
No, I really don't, man. 25 years in, well, I shouldn't expect anything else to surprise me. Yo, man, we back at it, bro. Episode 2, man. What's going on with you, brother?
Hey, man, it's been a good day. I'm enjoying a little bit of this new bourbon I popped open, Basil
Yes,
Hayden,
sir. Yep.
and finally finished watching Mo. So it's been a
Yeah.
good day.
Yeah, man. I cracked open some Whistle Pig farm stock rye that a friend of mine bought for me. So shout out to him, man. Appreciate that. Good looking out. It's serious. I feel like for every pod we're gonna have a glass or two, depending on the length of the pod and depending on how good it is, because we want to savor it, but also kind of want to get to the next glass sometimes, man. So yeah,
Right.
man. Today, look, episode 2 of Streamophile, man. It's feeling good. We're getting a good little groove here. We're talking about Mo on Netflix. When I came across it, it was getting ready to be in the top 10. I feel like I had the initial. I'm always like egotistical with some stuff like that. I'm like, oh, because I watched it, and I tell people that's what gave me
That's
that
what
boost to being in the top
pushed it.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was me. It was me. Mind you, I only
it was
told
all
like
you.
one other person about it, but it was like, yo, man, I did it. I was the reason it made top 10.
Welcome to Streamophile, the show where Jon and Ben watch the latest on all streaming platforms and let you know whether to stream it or skip it. We stream everything, so you don't have to.
Amazing show, and it's funny, and we'll get into all that. But yeah, man, let's run into it, John. Tell us about Mo, man. What's Mo about?
Well, I wanted to tell what Mo was about in my own words, but first, let me read the synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
According to Google, and its 6.6 million results. The eponymous Mo, played by Mohammed Amer in Netflix's new comedy series, is a Palestinian American Muslim man who grew up in Kuwait. Until that is, the Gulf War sent his family to live undocumented in Houston, Texas, where they wait for their asylum claim to be heard. 22 years and counting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that is the very tidy synopsis description of what the show is about,
Yes,
which uh, doesn't give you a lot to go on.
you lost me at
Uh,
eponymous, if we're being honest. But
Eponymous, yes,
yeah,
meaning the name, like the same name, like it's his name and the show's named after him,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
right. I'm pretty sure you knew what
I
it
feel
was,
like
and that's not the
yes, I
exact
did.
and verbatim definition, but I think we've been friends long enough that you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, no, I got you. I'm like, look, there's gonna be people listening. I go, what did he just say? Upon a what now? Hippopotamus what
Eponymous,
now?
like this is an English podcast, son. Come on, get it right. Yes,
Get it together.
eponymous.
Eponymous. EPONYMOUS. Come on, or is there an
What
I?
are is this like
Hey, sometimes listen. I had
who's the who's the sponsor? The what spelling bee? The
scripts spelling
script
bee
spelling bee? Jesus, that's right. How that was on ESPN and probably still is. I don't know, but hey,
because there's nothing going on at that time. There's no
right, right.
sports. That's why that happens. But
Hey,
yeah, man,
stick to the script, son.
literally stick to the script. But yeah, man, look, it was the way we talk about shows. If you haven't seen it, we're not gonna spoil it for you. We're not gonna give you the, you know what I mean, like tell you what episode happened. What we're not gonna do any of that. We're gonna give you an overarching picture of what the show was, what we thought about it, and at the end of each episode, we give you 3 ratings: stream it, skip it, or Wild Wild West. Episode 1, we went in depth about why Wild Wild West is a thing. Check that out if you haven't. And this is episode 2 where we talk about more on Netflix. What did you think about it, Jay?
Uh, man, where to start? So I don't want to shortchange the show and call it an immigrant story, even though that's a huge part of what it talks about. Um, but it it touches on that, and obviously he's coming from the Middle East. But that's what caught my attention. I came from Venezuela, from South America. You and I are both immigrants. I came here when I was 6, and so him retelling that immigrant story. Uh, Granted, we different circumstances for he and I, but him telling that immigrant story, the fact that they're undocumented, waiting, to hear for an asylum case to be heard, um, was the thing that hooked me. Um, and not just that, like we watched. I, you told me about this. I think you were like 2 episodes in, and you said,
Yeah.
"Hey, check out the show, right? The show that you want to take credit for because the reason why it's in the top 10."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure, for sure.
and
You're welcome.
and I saw the first episode, and it was I think 23 minutes, and then I saw that the rest of the episodes were right around that range, 23 to 27 minutes. The last
Mhm.
episode might be about 31 minutes,
Yes.
and so I saw the first episode, and immediately I was hooked because it was funny. Because Mo is a stand-up comedian,
Hmm.
and so I was expecting to see a funny show, and I did get a funny show, and I got all these witty conversations between he and his
Hmm.
friends and his mom, his brother, and um, but I also got that other part, the immigrant story, and every other type of story that Mo deals with. I mean, they talk about you see the struggles of addiction, you see, like I said, relationship issues with your family, with your friends, with other cultures, right? Because that's that whole back and forth with
Hmm.
Palestinians and Jews, and so that's
Hmm.
a funny sort of back and forth that they have throughout the entire show, and just a different perspective on things. Like I wouldn't have thought that this show was going to get as serious as it did. I
Yes.
was expecting strictly comedy, like especially when I saw the trailer and all these like little quips. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to watch something lighthearted and funny, and it has those moments. But it was just, man, it was a complete show, and the fact that the episodes were these bite-sized, episodes where
Hmm.
you can watch two or three in an hour, or if you wanted to binge the entire series in less than 3 hours, you'd be done. 2.5 hours,
Yes.
you'd watch the entire series. So the fact that they were bite-sized episodes and that every episode was complete. They didn't waste any time. Like everything on screen had a purpose, and maybe it wasn't relevant to that current episode, but two or three episodes on the road, you you think back, oh, okay, so that's why that happened in episode one. So because these episodes are so short, they had no choice but to like be really efficient with what they put on screen, so nothing was wasted. And so I mean, it was a complete show. I loved it. I guess
No, yeah,
that kind of tells what the rating's going to be down. My rating's going
yeah,
to
no, that
be.
one. Yeah, we're never gonna be subtle about what the rating is gonna be at the end. I don't think that's how we work, right? Like we're just gonna tell you
Yeah,
what we thought about it. Then you kind of know, okay, this is gonna be a stream it or skip it. Yeah, man, I
absolutely.
completely agree with you. Like it's definitely a show that surprised me, right? Like Um, by the way, shout out to you for that bite size comment. That's exactly how like sitcoms on streaming with no commercials are. They're bite size. Like you can run through
Yeah,
them. Like it's having like a bag of M and M's. You're like, oh, it's just I just have one. But if you have them too close, you're like, I'll take another one. One more. What's another? Then before you're done with the whole bag. You're like, oh, okay. This I guess this happened.
and now
But
you feel
yeah,
terrible
man.
about yourself.
Then you feel terrible about yourself, and that's what happens when you finish a show that's like this, right? You're like,
Very
okay,
true.
there's no season two. Now I gotta have to wait for however long it is before most season two, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth, because it leaves you with some unanswered questions,
Yeah.
right? So, man, like this show was so different than what I thought it was gonna be. So when I recommended it to you, I was like, yo, man, check it out. Like the change in tone hadn't happened yet, right? Like
Hmm.
the the different dynamics. I try to talk around because I don't want to ever give anything away.
Yeah.
Like, the different dynamics of what happened, like because you think it's just gonna be a funny banter show between him and his friends and his girlfriend and his mom, like the awkwardness there of like an overbearing, protective mom,
Yeah.
that's in all of your business regardless of your age. And I thought it was gonna be that, like that line, that target line. You know what I mean? Like with the lamp was hilarious. I was
Right.
like, oh man, this is what it's gonna be. That's great. And then it changes because a certain scene happens, and then everything takes its tone from then. Like I hadn't, and we talked about it right before we hit record on this, and earlier we talked about it. Like I hadn't realized like how that could have affected him psychologically, right? Like that one moment where like
Right.
he's in a country that he lives in but doesn't exist in, and then in the middle of having a conversation with this stranger that's going funny, like something else can happen and completely alter your life and your path of what you
Yeah.
think it's gonna be. Like it was such a well done show, and it just happens from that moment, right? Like where it just goes like, oh, oh shit, something could have happened right there, and then it devolves into something totally different. Whereas ask you questions like, how did you deal with your childhood? How if you processed that well enough? Like it just went into like all these different things that you don't expect it to become. It's just so incredibly well done. I want to give a shout out to Ramy Youssef. That's the first character you see other than Mo in the first episode
Yep.
that co-created the show with Mo. He came. I don't know if you know who Ramy Youssef is, or if you guys don't know who
He
Ramy Youssef
also,
is.
yeah.
Go ahead. What were you
Oh,
gonna
I
say?
said he also created Rami. I think that was on FX, and
Yeah.
it's going on for like 3 seasons now.
Yeah, man. Shout out to
Yep.
him, man. Like I watched him give a speech for Jon Stewart. When Jon Stewart was honored at the Kennedy Space Center,
Hmm.
Kennedy honors for Jon Stewart, like of his community and like all his attributes and things he's given to the community and the planet or whatever. And Rami came out there. He was like, "Look, man, I saw Jon Stewart once, and it made me want to do this." So shout out to Rami Youssef, man. He became like I think he said like the Palestinian Jon Stewart. I think is how he phrased himself. So like very
Right.
not very tricky if you know that part of the country. So yeah, man, shout out to him for creating another gem of a show. I was really impressed by this, man. Like I it reverberated and I connected with this show really because of the immigrant mentality, right? Like
Hmm.
the challenges he had to face. I remember sitting there. I was like, yo, like I know a situation like this that happened. You know what I mean? Like this is so
Yeah.
similar. Like not that I was ever undocumented, right? But
Hmm.
like just knowing that like I'm in a country where like I might not speak the language and being there at a young age, and then try to figure out your path and what you can do with it. It's so well done. It's so well done.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is. And look, it's okay. You can now say you were undocumented. It's all right because you're a citizen.
Oh,
Citizen
okay.
now.
It
They
was.
can't take it from you, or maybe
They
they
can't
can.
take
Who
it back.
knows?
Yeah. I mean, I
But
didn't. Yeah.
that's why I connected with it as well because of that immigrant story and that you mentioned it earlier where it's like you're from this country but like where are you really from here? And I came here when
Hmm.
I was 6. He in the show I think he was 10 years old when he arrives in the States, and
Yep.
it's like you've left everything you've known, you're learning a new language, but you also don't want to forget your culture, but you want to fit in and you don't want to, yeah, like you want to fit into this new place, but you don't want that to cost you to be a sellout and to forget about like where you came from. It's like a
Yeah. To
struggle. For me, it
compromise
was
your
always a,
core. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
and for me, it was always a constant struggle of like, okay, I got it. I left Venezuela when I was 6.5 years old. I was very young, but I mean, my mother still like she still raised us with the language and the food and the culture and
Yep.
everything else,
Hmm.
and so I didn't want to lose that. And I'm half Venezuelan, half Colombian, and so all that, like, I never lost it, but it's like, okay, how do I balance that with trying to fit in and learn the language and assimilate to the culture? And I am trying
Yep.
to be an American citizen, and I am, I've been here. I'm almost 39. I've been
Yep.
here. I was in the country I was born in Venezuela, for 6 years, but my
Yep.
adult life has been here. Like I am American, even though I'm proud to be Venezuelan, have Venezuelan roots. But these are the values and and the culture that I grew up in. But I never forget my roots either. And so like it tells that story. Mo shows that struggle and that story, and again, not just him, but the other Middle Eastern people, the other Middle Eastern cultures, and the back and forth with his Jewish friends. And that, to me, that was a pretty funny part. And it's not just one part, but it's throughout the shows, throughout the episodes,
Yep.
how they have like these little jabs at each other. um, yeah, man, that's I haven't said anything negative about the show yet. The only thing I can say that's negative is the end. I was kind of like so on the
Yes.
end.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
again, this is based on his story. I don't know how much they embellished and how much, you know what I mean? Because that's a
Yeah.
pretty spectacular situation. And for
It
those
was
of
kind
you,
of outrageous. Yes.
yeah, for those of you
Yeah.
watching or listening, like we've been pretty vague with everything. We haven't really given any specifics, and that's because that's the nature of the show. We want to tell you what the show's about, or if it happens to be a movie, whatever we're reviewing, what it's about and why we connected with it and why you should or shouldn't watch it. But we don't want to give away everything because that's why you're listening to us, or watching us, because you kind of want to get our take. and find out if it's worth giving it a shot or not. And so I don't
Yeah,
we don't want to ruin it for you and yeah, give you any spoilers because then you'll have no reason to really watch it.
yeah. So what we want to do going forward, unless this is a movie like from 30 years ago, you know what I mean. Then we'll get into more like particulars. But like if it's something that just
Yeah.
came out, we're not gonna give you the whole story. We're just gonna tell you, though, like I said, like the overarching story, the what the characters were, some of the characters were about, some scenes maybe, like I alluded to, the Target lamp scene doesn't mean you know
Yeah.
when that happened. You
Hmm.
don't, you know what I mean? Like there's certain scenes that happen, like when his brother burst in his room for the first time and he's holding a cat. Dude, I didn't think it was a real cat. Like that cat
Yeah.
was the most still cat I've ever seen ever. Like I don't, I still think it's a puppet. Like I couldn't believe it was a real cat. Cause I'm looking at the cat and I'm looking at the brother, I'm looking at the cat, looking at the brother, looking at the cat. I was like, which one's gonna blink first? And he's like, eye contact. You right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's just scenes like that, and unless you watch it, you don't really know what we're talking about. So it was such a well done show, man. I really enjoyed it. Like it just that twist, man. Like it takes a heaviness, and it gives you so many questions, like how dealing with depression and dealing with addiction
Hmm.
and dealing with just everything, trying to figure out how you're gonna make how do you gonna put food on the table for your family,
Right.
how you're gonna balance a relationship that's serious and you're at that crossroads of it. You know what I mean? When you don't know who you are, because in this country you're not validated with having, I don't know, a driver's license, like a social security number, any
Hmm.
of those things. It's such a monster of a and it just alludes to it just enough to like remind you, right? And the way it ends, like it really reminds you because it's like how he gets into that tricky situation. He can't go with his boy,
Hmm.
Nick, right? Nick is the
Nick.
character of
Yeah.
Toby. Yo, shout out to
Yeah.
Toby
Nick.
and Weegway on the show. A rapper that I came across that I also recommended to you, makes incredible music, so different than anything else I've heard of. If you have the chance, go check him out. Has one of my favorite songs, and it's like a 2 minute and a half song called "Try Jesus, Not Me," because I throw hands. Shout out to that. Just
Yeah.
that line alone is all you need to know to give him a chance.
Yeah, man. And look, we harped on it a lot. I know I said immigrant story or he's an immigrant, but it's not just that. This is if you like
It's
if
an
you
American
like good
story.
storytelling, it is an American
Yep.
story, right? If you like good storytelling, you have to watch this show. I mean, it's got everything. Like I said, yeah, his story is that of an immigrant, but it touches on all those points you mentioned: depression and dealing with relationships and addiction and trying to navigate your own American dream or how to get
Yep.
there. And man, it's just really good storytelling. And the fact that they were able to do so much with these, pretty short episodes,
Yep.
uh, goes I give all the credit, like you said, to Ramy and Mo, the way that it was written, because it's pretty captivating. I came in just expecting a funny show
Yep.
and nothing but like one-liners and witty conversations, and it was so much more than that. So uh,
That's
oof.
how they draw you in.
This is tough for me, um, but I appreciate you recommending the show. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
gonna say that again. I might have said it
Uh,
once already, so
just
we have
I'm
to
just gonna
strike.
have
We
it
might
on a
have to
loop.
just edit this out from the podcast. But yeah, I appreciate you recommending the show to me.
Yeah,
It
man.
was
Look,
definitely worth the watch.
yeah. What I was thinking about as you were talking, right? And I was like, yeah, he's making really good points. And look at that, back to back compliments. That happened. That's the bourbon. That's what happens. It's like, yo, man, you know what? You're all right. You're all
I'm
right,
gonna
John.
stop
You're
drinking.
okay. Not like, look, what I appreciated from it was that they weren't just a funny show, right? Like they gave you the
Yeah.
funny, but like after that, it became more, right? Like a show's got to have heart. A show's got to have its own identity. It can't just be a funny show, right? Like it
Hmm.
needed to be more than that, and it needed to tell a story, and it did, and it really did. Like it did what it needed to do, and hopefully there's a season two. And I mean, like I said, it was when we watched it, it was in the top 10. Right now, it's like right outside of it because Netflix just drop shows like crazy. So yeah, man. Look, it's a def. I think we're at the rating part of it, right? Like I think we're
Yeah,
at
I
the
think so.
I, yeah. Spoiler alert. Stream the out of this show. I didn't curse.
Wait,
I censored
you didn't
myself.
even we didn't even count it down.
No countdown.
We didn't even count it down.
Stream.
You didn't give me a chance. Just
No. I'm telling you.
because.
Look, we're not gonna always
Okay.
have. You know what? I'm waiting for the podcast. I'm waiting for the episode where we disagree, right? Because that's gonna be a fun one.
I,
Like
I
that's
kind
gonna
of
be
think
a
we
fun.
disagreed on Wild Wild West, but we still decided that it's a
No.
ranking for a show or a
Yes.
movie that you should never get even close to. I mean,
No.
this will cause you to lose relationships, but
Leave your family.
stream it.
Like
Yeah,
it'll make you.
Mo and
It'll.
Netflix, please stream it.
Yeah. Please stream it. Check it out. Give it a chance. Like, look, you might not agree with us, and that's fine. That's when you reach out to us on Twitter and eventually other social media platforms.
Right.
It's just a good, well thought out bite size of a show. It's exactly as long as it needed to be. And that's sometimes a show can run too long where they're filling up scenes with like dead spaces and weird
It
shit.
is.
Doesn't make sense. This is not one of those shows. Not one of those shows at all.
I think you summed it up pretty perfectly there. Damn it, another
Yeah, man.
compliment.
Stream.
Uh,
That's
yeah,
two. That's the bourbon. Hey man, shout out to Basil Hayden. Uh
that's right.
getting my brother John to give me two compliments on one episode. Yeah, man. So look, wrapping it up, Mo, 100% on our tomatoes. Stream it.
Thanks for listening to Streamophile. Directed by Jon. Executive producer Ben and Jon. Created by Ben and Jon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
That song goes so hard. I was listening to that shit today. The was it Try Jesus Not Me?
Try
Cause I throw hands.
because I throw
Try
hands.
Jesus, not me. Cause I throw hands. Some real shit. That's a line right there, bro.